Business Focus with Kudzie Sharara on the Champions League Breakfast.
Good morning and welcome to Business Focus. It's 23 minutes before 8 o'clock right here on Capital 100.4 FM. Good morning to you, Kudzie. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Tinashe. Good morning, Patsani. Good morning, listeners.
Okay, so we are getting into Business Focus. You've got a couple of questions that you want to understand more in terms of business. Drop them up quickly on our WhatsApp platform as well. As long as we are on the show, Kudzie will be able to help us as well. So, Kudzie, I heard the President E.D. Mnangagwa yesterday laid down the agenda for the next 5 years for his ministers. Looking at his speech, Kudzie, was it inspiring and leave you with confidence that things are going to improve?
Thank you, Tinashe. Yeah, so when you hear the president telling his lieutenants, that's the ministers, deputy ministers, and the permanent secretaries, that dereliction of duty will not be tolerated, will not be condoned. When he says that chef mentality has no place in my administration, and when he says turf wars will also not be tolerated in his administration, then you would think, look, this is a man that means business. But as they say, in Zimbabwe, we are never short of what to say. We are never short of ideas. It comes back to enforcement. It comes back to implementation. I think that's where we lack. And it comes back to say, when somebody underperforms or doesn't perform, or dereliction of duty, what do we do after that? Do we fire them? Do we for example, people would complain to say so and so minister didn't do well. Even I think last year, or is it early this year, when ministers were graded to say this is the best performing minister, and some ministers were found wanting. You would have expected that at the appointment and reappointment of ministers, some of them would have fallen by the wayside because of their performance in the last cabinet. But I think we only had one who couldn't make it. That's Dr. Sekai Nzenza, and the Minister of Industry and Commerce. That's the only minister who didn't return to the new cabinet. So I think there are other issues or other areas that the president also touched on that I think will also in a way, if they are fully implemented, again we could talk of an improvement, a positive improvement in our lives and in our economy. He spoke about that the public sector should shift from reporting on activities and tasks, but they should shift and to report on results, output and outcomes. Output based and results based reports. Instead and then at the end of the day and then more not
so in other words, you're saying that let's put away the issues of promising than doing.
Yes, let's do. I think with NDS 1 and NDS, I think NDS 2 later on, we have already said what we want to do as a country. So what we now need to see are results. He spoke about implementation of accelerator projects such as Gwaishangan Dam, Kunzli Dam, and the Bedbury Bulawayo Victoria Falls Highway, and drilling of 35,000 boreholes in our communities. I think those projects, they've been long overdue. If you talk about the Gwaishangan Dam, you talk about Kunzli Dam, they're big projects. Yes, we understand, but I think in this next 5 years, hopefully they will be completed. Yes, and we start to see benefit from that. He spoke about that his administration will also intensify consolidation of food security and sovereignty through higher agriculture production and productivity, as well as mechanization and modernization of the agriculture sector, and then improving social services, education, health, utilities across the nation. I think in the last 5 years, they've done well in terms of infrastructure, dams, roads and stuff. But in terms of the social services, you look at your health, your education, I think that's again where there is need to really do some work in those areas. So Let's wait and see how it goes in the next 5 years.
Okay, let's also get to check on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, considering that today is a Friday, it's the end of the week. How has it been performing during the course of the week?
Yeah, it started the week on a positive trajectory, and we're seeing very solid gains being recorded on the ZSC. I think on one day it was more than 8%. That's on the ZSC Top 10 Index, and then the other day we also saw the gaining about 6%, and then it started coming off on Wednesday. It was down. Yesterday as well, it was down, with the OSHA index down by 0.18%. The Top 10 Index easing by 1.21%. I think counters that dragged the market lower. Hippo Valley dropping 9.68%. Hippo Valley is the subject of negotiations. There are negotiations that are taking place in Hippo Valley. I think the parent company, Tonga Tullets, is up for grabs, and a Tanzanian company had won the bid to purchase Tonga Tullets, which is a South Africa headquartered company, but with operations here in Zimbabwe. That's through Hippo Valley, which is listed on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, as well as Triangle Limited, which is also in Zimbabwe. And I understand government is contesting the award of that bid to a Tanzanian company, saying isusu se Zimbabwe tine yatinoti sovereign wealth fund, and we also wanted to buy those assets, and we were not considered, and government is saying, why were we not considered? We have got the resources. We showed you mari yacho tinayo yokutenga, and we are also doing a lot with this particular company, kuchiredzi koko tukuvapa water rights and all sorts of things. We are working a lot with them. So why were we not considered in the purchase of these assets? So it will be interesting whether the transaction that was awarded to a Tanzanian company will go through, because they will need exchange control approval. They will need the Commission in Tariff Competition and Tariff Commission will also need to approve. So it's unlikely that this deal will go through.
Kudzie, not umbondi pomsiyano ripo pakati pe investment and exploitation. The difference between investment and exploitation.
Look, I think you are, for example, I think you are, to put it into context, you are talking about, okay, we are talking about someone who is Zimbabwe as an investor, and someone who is Zimbabwe achitindira kuinvesta, but at the end of the day exploit. I think investment is where the kind of investment that we want is where the local community Zimbabweans actually benefit from that, as opposed to somebody who comes in. They benefit from our resources, but there is very little benefit on us as Zimbabweans. So munhu anongouya ongoita zvaakuita otongotora mari yacho oenda nayo. Hapana tax yacho vashanda kwasi, togona kuramba tichidzokorodza those businesses ataitaurayo Grainer said, kuti munhu anotongouya necontainer rake otengesa oenda nayo mari yacho. Vashandi vake ari kuvabhadhara peanuts, vashandi vake havasi kubhadhara tax, iye pachake haasi kubhadhara tax. That's exploitation, I think, of our markets, because we are a dollarized economy. A lot of people are just coming in here and benefiting from that. So that's exploitation. But when it comes to investments, you want to look at, for example, some of the mining houses that we have in Zimbabwe, where you can ukaenda kwavari kuoperata vari, you can actually see kuti panapa pari kuitwa sei, there's development, they develop their roads. There are some companies that I've seen, there kumusha kwedu isusu kunonzi kumakonde National and West kumakondo wapfuura zvimba, kune some company iri kunotora ivhu racho ndo riri kushandiswa kugadzira materials, you know. I know some kind of, I know material yacho nonzi chi handizve, but the damage that they have caused to the roads,
gullies already there.
Yes, and small cars can't even move.
I think my benefits anozita mashoba kugadziriswa road kuchazoda chinechi.
I think it would be wiser to say if say for example the Sharara Holdings would like to come and do mining in that area, for instance. Before they do, yes, they should start by putting infrastructure in terms of roads and everything along that same road that they're going to be using. Not to just come and use the road that was already there and you leave it in a dilapidated state.
Yes, as well as to motor to diga tichatofambe road iyoyo, because kuenda mas trucks are ngonotora ivhu vakaenda. So yeah, so those are exploiters, I think, Patisani, to answer your question.
Okay, let's look at the regional and international international markets as well. How have they been faring during this week?
Yeah, in the region, I think on the only markets that were in the negative territory were those in Zimbabwe, Lusaka, Zambia, Tanzania, Nigeria, and Tunisia. But the rest of the markets in the continent were positive, with the top risers being those in Namibia up 1.72%, South Africa up by 1.43%, and Ghana up by 1.11%. So most markets in Africa were positive. And then just looking at international markets, I think I'm not sure what was happening, because most of those markets were in the positive territory with really solid gains. The Dow Jones Industrial Average in the US up by 0.96%. And then the Nasdaq Composite also in the US up by 1.16%. And then you go to the UK, the FTSE 100 up by 1.95%. And you go to Germany, the DAX up by 0.97%. So most markets were positive yesterday, especially in Europe and in Asia. Most of those markets were positive. And then just coming back here in Zimbabwe, maybe something that we haven't been updating people on is on the digital backed tokens, the gold backed digital tokens. Gold backed digital tokens also been, I think, yesterday about 2.47 kgs worth of those tokens were sold. So in total, about 332 kgs of gold have been sold in form of gold-backed digital tokens, and they are making up 332 million milligrams. So I think you need about 20 milligrams to buy a loaf of bread. You need about 20 milligrams. So I just want to do a quick calculation. Can I 332 million milligrams that are out there, and 20, you need 20 to buy a loaf of bread. So far you can buy 16 million loaves of bread through the milligrams that are out there. I'm not sure how many loaves do Zimbabweans consume per day. Yeah, so it would be interesting. So loaves of bread you can only buy about 16.6 million loaves of bread. I'll do the math again tomorrow and just see, and on Monday just see how many cars can you buy, how many because why am I doing these calculations? I want to see what sort of impact what has been sold so far can have. Remember that they want to roll them out to make sure that everybody can transact using them. But have we reached a critical mass that is worth it for example, a bank to say ndakuisa ma infrastructure for the transactions to go through the Ziga ndizve kana iri supermarket, is it worth it to put infrastructure so that people can transact using Zig? I think we need to get to a critical mass to say, okay, we've scored so many milligrams that are out there, and they can benefit a significant number of people. But probably also why, because yesterday I think about less than $1 billion was invested in the purchase of these digital tokens. It's not a lot of money. Maybe it's because of the liquidity crunch that is there. I think in US dollars, one was rotenga gold-backed digital tokens. I think yesterday it's about 200 and less than $300 worth of tokens were bought using US dollars. So what to record or to shansama US how utenga these tokens. My complaint now that gold to butter gold and to invest in gold. Now these are the investments that are now in the country investing in gold-backed digital tokens. Maybe it's the issue of confidence as well. People are saying, okay, in those days my tokens are actually backed by gold, but the Reserve Bank is telling us so far they sold about 332 kgs of gold, and as we have always said, we just need that audit gold racho and the like, so that we can build confidence in these digital backed tokens.
So talking about building confidence, obviously that will lead us into our investment tip of the day.
Yeah, investment tip of the day, maybe I would say invest in knowledge. Yeah, that's the first investment that you should make. That is the biggest investment that you make. Invest in knowledge first. Akonongoti wangonzwa tinasha kuti amana mastand ndo property ndo kuri kufaya watongomhanya wangonoisa mari yako
mentality kako kuti property ine mari
inogona kunge ine mari but invest in knowledge first because auzive kuti vari kuita mari yacho sei. Unongomhanya wangonotenga property kwekuti hakuna kana infrastructure, hakuna kana mautilities, woti property yoyo apa watengeserwa chidhura cheproperty chinodhura futi but hakuna kana maroads, hakuna kana sewer, hakuna kana water reticulation. Unongo wainvesta in the wrong kind of property. So yes, invest in knowledge. That's my investment tip for the day.
Okay, let's close off with our financial term of the day as well.
Financial term for the day. I had not thought about that one today. Any area that you don't understand or that you want clarity on, that you think people would want to know?
So let's pick it up quickly as well on our WhatsApp platform. If you've got a term that you want to be to be explained in terms of business, quickly do that on our WhatsApp platform 0719 100404. It could be our term of the day today, so you also get to understand and others also get to learn about it. 0719 100404. Quickly before we wrap it off on business focus today, what is that one term that you also want to understand much about in terms of business? We have opened it up for everyone today to just pop up with their question, and we address that one with Kudzie Sharara right here on Business Focus.
Pane one rapinda apo rakanzi what's hedging?
Hedging.
Yes, what's hedging?
Okay.
Yes. So when you hedge, you are trying to protect yourself against losses. So you could say, I want to hedge against currency depreciation. So you invest in an asset that allows you to probably avoid completely losses. So that's hedging. But there are actually some instruments that are available for hedging. But basically, in simple terms, when you are hedging, you are trying to invest in an asset that protects you from losses.
Okay, we've got to pick up some of them and note them down and for future learning.
So hedging, to protect.
Yes, you are protecting against
from the future.
Yeah, for example, if it's currency depreciation, that's why you're not going to take my US pass paper. In a way, you are hedging. Yeah.
On a lighter note, this one obviously we'll explain it some other day. As in, I need to understand Gungbafa. All right, Kudzie, thank you so much for Business Focus. We'll do this again. That will be on Monday at 7:35 a.m. right here on Capitalk.
Business Focus with Kudzie Sharara on the Champions League Breakfast.
Shumba Zinonzo, Kings of Radio.
Oh, Sababa.
Champions League Breakfast.
Yeah.
On Capital 100.4 FM.